What's going on? Mitchell Renz here for NFL Daily, and I have 8 NFL rumors. Then I'm going to kick it over to my dude, Tom Downey, for his latest mock draft. My first rumor here is around Antonio Brown and whether or not he's going to the Denver Broncos. And there's been reported interest in Brown that the Broncos have, and heck, I think just about any team would be at least a little bit interested in Antonio Brown. Now, Broncos are going to have to do a drastic offensive overhaul because last season they were just not very good. Like, let's just be real. Here's the thing though. Antonio Brown, as we know, is a little bit of a diva, and he was on Twitter recently and he ripped Bruce Arians, who's a head coach not affiliated with the Broncos, but he also ripped Emmanuel Sanders. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but Emmanuel Sanders and Antonio Brown used to be teammates on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and well, he ripped Emmanuel a little bit, so there's these rumors about him going to Denver, about him going to the Broncos. Well, if he's ripping Emmanuel Sanders, who, reportedly could get cut if AB goes there, but if he doesn't, I don't know if this is going to be a match made in heaven. In 2018, AB balled out. I mean, he does what he does. 104 catches, 1,297 yards, 12.5 yards per catch, and then a career-high 15 touchdowns. But when you look at his entire career, it's incredible, really. I mean, 837 catches, 11,000 yards, 13 yards per catch, and then 74 touchdowns. I mean, AB is booming every single year. It's like taxes, death, AB's booming. Heck, over 100 catches in 6 straight years is absolutely insane. So there's a good reason why literally every NFL team is after Antonio Brown, but we have the top 5 teams here for AB in terms of BetDSI and where he's going to play next season. The 49ers are there at plus 200 odds according to BetDSI. The New York Jets at plus 300. The Bills at 450. Dude, please do not go to Buffalo. And then the Arizona Cardinals there at plus 500. Hey, maybe the Steelers want to send him to a team that has absolutely no chance going forward. The Indianapolis Colts. Now that is an interesting one. Andrew Luck, Antonio Brown, maybe even Le'Veon Bell. That would be sick. If I had to put my money on it though, I'd put my money on the 49ers at plus 200 odds. But let me know from you. DM me on Twitter at MitchellRenz365. Guess what? A little favor to ask everyone. If you guys could go subscribe to youtube.com/chatsportstv, I think that'd be dope as hell. Try to get us to 100,000 subscribers. Right now, we're at 80,428. So again, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Just click that subscribe button. We're going to be having a lot of fun all season long. I'm also going to be having fun all the off-season, betting on NBA, betting on MLB, thanks to our sponsor, BetDSI, and they've hooked us up with the best promo code on the internet. It's at Live120 for 120% deposit bonus. Go to chatsports.com/bet, and when you put down $50, you'll get $60 for free. When you put down $100, you'll get $120 for free. When you put down $500, you'll get $600 for free. Shout out to BetDSI for hooking us up with the best promo on the internet. My next rumor here is around Joe Flacco. And is he going to the Jaguars? There's a report right now that the Ravens are planning to move on from Flacco, and I don't really think that surprises anyone because, well, Lamar Jackson is the new option there. So the Jaguars, they could make a move for him, and according to Jason Lockenfor of CBS, the Jaguars are interested in him, and they're interested in acquiring Joe Flacco because, let's just be real, Blake Bortles is not the answer. Yeah, I'm probably the first person you ever heard on an NFL show that say Blake Bortles isn't very good. I get it. And I understand that they just hired John DeFilippo, so maybe he's looking for a little bit of a change at the quarterback position. And when you look at last season for Flacco, you got to understand, sure, he got benched, I believe, in Week 11 for Lamar Jackson, and 61.2% completion percentage, the 2,465 yards, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and Flacco actually got hurt. That's why Lamar ended up coming in, but then never got his job back. 61.7% completion percentage for his career stats, 38,245 yards, but a touchdown to interception ratio, that's just kind of like, and that's just what Joe Flacco is, in my opinion. So here are the top teams according to BetDSI who could have Joe Flacco as their quarterback in 2019. The Denver Broncos at plus 150, the Jags at plus 200, the Redskins at plus 250, the Dolphins at plus 400, and then the Giants at plus 750. I want to know from you, I want you guys to DM me on Twitter at MitchellRenz365 where you guys think Joe Flacco is going to play. And hey, guess what? I'll let you know where I think he's going to end up as well. Next rumor here is around Nick Foles, and is he going to the Jaguars? Well, this one I think is a little bit more interesting because the Jaguars were already one of the favorite teams to land Nick Foles this offseason, and then they went and got his former quarterbacks coach, John DeFilippo. And even though Foles and DeFilippo weren't together for very long, I think when you listen to Nick Foles talk about Filippo, he speaks very highly of him, and I can understand why. Like, let's not forget that when Nick Foles was with him, he had an unbelievable postseason run last season. Heck, he also won this thing called the MVP of the Super Bowl, which I think is pretty good. And when you look at this year, he was also pretty good. I mean, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a 72.3% completion percentage, 1,413 yards, but that's in the regular season. When we know big, you know what, Nick, he's getting it done in the postseason, and if we can get those kind of numbers rolling forward, that's why he's going to make close to maybe $20 million. His career stats, though, I think Nick Foles has actually done a pretty good job. He's had really one bad year, which came due to Jeff Fisher. He had 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, but minus that 1 year, Nick Foles is actually top 5 in touchdown interception ratio among all-time quarterbacks, which is pretty interesting. But over 11,000 yards, I love me some Nick Foles, and I think there's going to be plenty of teams interested in probably the top free agent quarterback this offseason. You have the Miami Dolphins there at plus 200 odds to get Nick Foles in 2019, and the Redskins at 250, the Jaguars at plus 350, the Broncos at plus 400, and then the Eagles at plus 600. So Nick Foles, his 2019 team, this one's still going up a little bit. If you guys want to know where I think Nick Foles is going to play, just slide in my DMs at Mitchell Renz 365 because I think Nick Foles is where he's going to end up. It's going to be a pretty interesting one. All right, my next rumor here coming in is for Ryan Tannehill, and is he going to be a Cincinnati Bengal? Interesting. Well, the Dolphins are expected to explore trading Tannehill, and I think that they 100% should, because Ryan Tannehill just hasn't been all that good. And Zach Taylor is likely to become the Bengals' next head coach, and if you don't know why that matters, it's because Tannehill could reunite with Zach Taylor, and ultimately I think it could make a little bit of sense too. But here's the thing, all right? So Tannehill and Taylor were together from 2012 to 2015. I've seen Andy Dalton play, and when I originally saw this report, I was like, okay, right? Like, I mean, I get it. The Bengals have been mediocre with Andy Dalton, but is Ryan Tannehill really going to take them over mediocrity? I really don't think so. I mean, what has Ryan Tannehill really done? I think he's had one okay season, and then every other year I consider, you know, maybe you should have played tight end, Ryan. Sorry, but maybe that was the route. If you'd asked me straight up who I would rather have a quarterback, I'd rather have Andy Dalton over Ryan Tannehill. I don't think Ryan Tannehill's very good, and I don't know what he's going to make for the Bengals if he ends up going there, but you're going to pay him as a backup all that kind of money? I don't know about that. And if he's just going to battle with Andy Dalton, I don't know if Andy Dalton would like that very much, because you could argue that Andy Dalton is a much better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill. But if you don't believe me, maybe his stats will tell it to you. Because in 2018, 64.2% completion percentage, didn't even hit 2,000 yards. Now, I get it. He was injured for some of it. 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But really, his touchdown-interception ratio his entire career has been lackluster. It's just not very good. 123 touchdowns, 75 interceptions. 20,000 yards, sure, but a 62.8% completion percentage for somebody who's supposed to be a franchise quarterback, that's concerning to me, and I just haven't seen a lot of growth out of Tannehill, and he's had a lot of coaches come in and out. I get it, but at the end of the day, those numbers in the NFL, that's not going to get it done. So I talked about Andy Dalton, and I talked about Ryan Tannehill, and I want to know from you, who's the better quarterback right now? I want you to type D for Dalton or type T for Tannehill. I would type my D. Sounds weird, right? Who's the better quarterback, Andy Dalton or Ryan Tannehill? Type T for Dalton or type T for Tannehill. My next rumor here is around Gerald McCoy, and is he going to get cut? Well, when I first saw this, I was actually a little bit surprised because I think Gerald McCoy is a talented player, even though he didn't have the best year last season. So after 30 years of being, you know, a predominant 4-3 defense, the Buccaneers are expected to use a hybrid 3-4 base defense because of their new defensive coordinator, Todd Bowles. And, you know, Bruce Arians also came in, Todd Bowles is also coming in, so this new scheme is expected to happen. A one-gap defense is different than a traditional 3-4, which typically asks players to play in two gaps. Gerald McCoy, who is due to make $13 million next year, which is none of it is guaranteed. So if he remains on the roster, he would line up outside as a 3 technique. Given the Bucs are about $16.5 million under the salary cap going into 2019, I think there's a real solid chance that Gerald McCoy is just not going to return in 2019. And I think when you look at talent, he's good. And he's a good player. I don't care what his stats say from last year. I think Gerald McCoy is a talented player. I just think that Buccaneers defense was an absolute nightmare last season. But in 2018, sure, he didn't have the year he was hoping for. 6 sacks, 28 tackles, 6 tackles for a loss, and 0 forced fumbles. But from a career standpoint, I think he's been pretty solid. 54.5 sacks, almost 300 tackles, 79 tackles for a loss, and 6 forced fumbles. I mean, there's a reason why he wears that C on his jersey, because he's been one of the better players on the Buccaneers defense. Sure, that might not be saying a lot because their defense has been horrible, but, you know, to each their own. Gerald McCoy, he may be getting cut, and if he does, sad day, I think, for some Buccaneers fans, but I think they want to win more than, you know, they want to lose. Next rumor here is around Mike Tomlin, and when we told Mike Tomlin that he was going to be on our show, this is actually the picture that he gave us, and as you can see, he was surprised. Art Rooney discussed extensions today at a press conference, and he talked about, you know, giving Ben Roethlisberger's extension, and the coach, Mike Tomlin, he does have 2 years left on his deal, and this would maybe be the time where some coaches enter that extension, but when asked, Rooney said, you know, we're going to cross that bridge when we come to it. And if I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm kind of shaking in my boots a little bit. I was 8-7-1 with a team, in my opinion, that should have easily made the playoffs. They folded down the end of the stretch. And when you look at his last 8 playoff games, Mike Tomlin's 3-5. And sure, he's never had a losing season. But I'll say it right now, I think Mike Tomlin should have gotten fired. So I'll ask you, and I got a nice little reaction poll here to hit you with. Should the Steelers extend Mike Tomlin? I want you to, if you're watching on Facebook, give me a like for yes or a heart for no. If you're watching on YouTube, just comment below yes or no. Should the Steelers extend Mike Tomlin? Next rumor coming up here is around Cam Newton, and could he miss actually the entire 2019 season? Well, Carolina Panthers owner David Tepper has not ruled out the possibility that Cam Newton might miss the 2019 season as he recovers from a right shoulder injury. Newton missed the final 2 games of the season because of a sore shoulder, which was surgically repaired 2 years ago. A reporter asked Tepper to compare Newton's injury with Andrew Luck, who sat out the 2017 season because of a shoulder injury, and he came back very, very strong this season, which I think we can all agree on. Heck, I would say Andrew Luck is the comeback player of the year. So this is what Tepper had to say. If you told me he took a year off and could recover and be fully recovered and everything else, and that's what I took, an extra year, why wouldn't you do that? So when I look at that, I'm saying, okay, maybe he actually thinks that Cam Newton needs the rest. Maybe Cam himself is kind of saying like, hey man, I'm just not fully healthy. And when I go back and I look at what I saw at the end of the year, heck, do you guys remember Cam Newton is regarded as probably the quarterback with the strongest throwing arm in the NFL, or at least one of them, correct? At the end of the year last year, he couldn't even reach the end zone on a Hail Mary throw. Heck, they had to bring in the backup to do the Hail Mary. That's concerning to me. And then I'm going to look at stats like Cam Newton only had 4 rushing touchdowns this year. It's the first time in his entire career he hasn't hit 5 rushing touchdowns. So I'm thinking, okay, sure, like they had a lot of players going on and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if he's not rushing, you know, maybe he's not rushing. I understand he's not Putin, but he's not rushing the football. That's not good either. In 2018, it's 67.9% completion percentage, 3,395 yards, 24 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Not fully healthy, in my opinion. And then when you consider the rushing yards, only 488 yards and 4 touchdowns. His career stats, though, as you can see, a much better completion percentage this past year. 59.7% completion percentage, 28,000 yards, 182 touchdowns, 107 interceptions. Heck, I would argue Cam Newton might be more valuable than what Michael Vick was because of that rushing ability, especially getting into the end zone. But I got a question. If the Panthers don't have Cam Newton next season, how many games would they win? I think Cam is by far their most important player. Sure, you could argue Christian McCaffrey. But if the Carolina Panthers do not have Cam Newton next season, how many games will they win? And if you want to know what I think, hit me up on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. There's guaranteed one place I'm going to be betting on how many games the Panthers win next year. That's at BetDSI. I'm going to be going to chatsports.com/bet, and you guys should too. Use our promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. You put down $50, you'll get $60 for free. You put down $100, you'll get $120 for free. Heck, put down $500, be a big baller, get $600 for free. Shout out to BetDSI for hooking us up with the best promo code on the internet. My next rumor here is around Colin Kaepernick, and if Cam Newton misses time, maybe Colin Kaepernick is going to be the next quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. So the report is that Cam could sit out 2019, and if they do that, the Panthers may be on the hunt for a quarterback. Here's the interesting note. They signed Eric Reid, who also protested with Colin Kaepernick, so maybe Tepper's like, I don't really care about the protesting, I want to win. So the fact that he's already signed Eric Reid, maybe he's okay then signing Colin Kaepernick to a deal, which I think is interesting, right? So you add Colin Kaepernick, who's a mobile quarterback, filling in for Cam Newton, who, as we all know, is also a mobile quarterback. Maybe it's an easier transition for the Carolina Panthers offense just to insert Colin Kaepernick, who is still looking for a job. But it's been a long time since we've seen Kaepernick. It's been a long time since we've seen him on the field, but when you look at his career stats, I still think that this guy can get it done. A 59.8% completion percentage, 12,271 yards, 72 touchdowns, and 30 interceptions. So, I'm going to bring this question up for you. If Colin Kaepernick, or will Colin Kaepernick, ever play in the NFL again? If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, I want you to type a Y for yes or type N for no. Will Colin Kaepernick ever play in the NFL again? And heck, if you want to know my personal opinion, I've already told you guys a few times, just slide on into my DMs at Mitchell Renz 365, and I'll let you know. If you think I look good today, it's because of our sponsor, Mizzen & Main. Shout out to them. They're the best damn dress shirts on the internet. Go to comfortable.af to see for yourself. I'm going to be heading out now. I'm going to be kicking this one over to Tom Downey, who's going to be going over his NFL mock draft.